This episode of Gather and Go is brought to you by Louisville Tourism. Picture yourself in the heart of Bourbon City, where the spirit of the South meets the rich heritage of Kentucky. From urban distilleries to one-of-a-kind attractions, this city offers a perfect blend of tradition and innovation. To plan your unforgettable group trip to Louisville, visit gotolouisville.com. Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Gather and Go, the podcast that helps you plan, promote, and lead better trips. I'm Brian Jewell. I am your host. I am so happy that you decided to spend some of your time with me today. And as always, our promise to you is that we're going to do everything we can to make that investment of your time worth your while. Today, we have a really interesting conversation with tour operator Anna McKitrick of Vegan AF. She's going to tell us about how she turned a career as an Instagram influencer into a thriving vegan tour business. She's going to talk about how she leveraged the power of a niche audience to grow her company and give us some of her secrets to building awareness without spending any money on digital ads. This is a conversation you definitely want to check out. Before we get there, though, let's start with some travel news you may have missed. U.S. Travel has revised its 2025 forecast. The nationwide travel advocacy organization has revised its projections for this year. The change is largely due to a downturn in inbound travel to the United States, especially from Canada, that the organization didn't anticipate when it issued its initial 2025 projection at the beginning of the year. That initial forecast predicted an 8.8% increase in inbound foreign travel, up to 78.8 million visits. The updated projection, meanwhile, issued on October 1st, forecasts that instead of that increase, the U.S. will see a 6.3% decrease in inbound travel, dropping to an expected 67.9 million visitors instead. Domestic leisure travel, on the other hand, is predicted to grow by about 1.9% this year. And the forecast shows inflation of travel-related expenses leveling off in 2025, with travel prices increasing less than other prices for the first time in several years. U.S. Travel also expects international inbound visitation to pick up in 2026, with major events such as the FIFA World Cup and America's 250th anniversary. Well, now it's time for the road tip segment of our show. This is the part of every episode where we dig deep into our bag of travel knowledge from decades on the road and bring you tips to make your next trip less stressful and more successful. Now, I got to level with you guys. I have always loved eating on the road. In fact, eating tends to be my favorite part of travel, and I know that that's the case for more than a few of you as well. Well, about a year and a half ago, I was on one of our on-site familiarization tours, and I don't know, 3 or 4 days into the tour, I started realizing that I just kind of felt terrible. Somehow I made it to the end of each day with the feeling of just kind of having a brick in my stomach. And after 2 or 3 days of this happening, I started to ask myself some tough questions about what I was eating on the road. And when I looked back over my eating habits on that trip, I realized that I'd been having kind of a big breakfast in the hotel and then having whatever sounded good for lunch at the restaurants we were going to, ended up eating a lot of that lunch. And then when it came dinner time, well, I was honestly still kind of full from lunch, but then of course trying to eat dinner as well. And just ended the day overstuffed and feeling kind of awful. And so I tried something on that trip. On the last couple of days of the trip, I said, you know what? Instead of having a burger and fries or a pasta dish or some pizza or something like that at lunch, if I get the opportunity, I'm just going to order a salad. And so I tried that for a couple days, and lo and behold, it made such a huge difference in the way I felt. Now, I know some of you are hearing this and saying, Brian, this is the most obvious thing you have ever said. And I know you're right, but just being completely honest with you, it wasn't obvious to me because, well, I had been just enjoying my meals on the road for 20 years and had honestly never thought that maybe eating a little bit lighter at lunchtime could make me feel better the rest of the day. But sure enough, that's the case. And so our road tip for today is very simple. It's very straightforward. Eat a salad. That's it. Eat a salad when you're on the road, and especially if you're on a trip like a fam where you know there's going to be food on food on food. The best thing that I have found to survive that with a stomach that doesn't feel like it's been filled up with concrete is to eat that salad at lunchtime. Now, let me explain that reasoning for you, unpack it a little bit. I still want to have a fairly big breakfast because mornings on the road can be really demanding. And that stretch between, say, 7 or 7:30 when you have breakfast and 12 or 12:30 when you might sit down for lunch can be some of the longest and most strenuous parts of the day. So I still want a good breakfast at that time, plenty of protein to fuel me through the morning. And I want to be able to enjoy dinner because very often when you travel, dinner is going to be the best restaurant you'll visit during the day. It's usually the highlight meal of the entire day. And so I want to make sure I have plenty of room in my stomach that I show up at dinner hungry so I can make the most of that opportunity. Now, given those two considerations, a lighter lunch starts to make a lot of sense. And I found that salads are the way to go. And it might sound kind of boring just having a salad every day, but I have traveled all over the country, all around the world, and been in, hundreds of restaurants, maybe more. And what I've actually found is that salads very often can be tailored to reflect the flavors of the area you're visiting. A lot of them are going to have signature seasonings, maybe some signature ingredients. You might find fresh seafood if you're in a coastal area. You might find green chili if you're in the Southwest. And this can really help make that salad habit rewarding and different from day to day and something you look forward to at lunchtime. And I've also found that if you get an entree salad, it can actually be just filling enough to get you through the rest of the day without being so filling that you feel bad later in the afternoon. Now, usually when I have that lunch salad, I find I'm appropriately hungry again at dinner time, and I am ready to make the most of whatever my hosts have in store for me at dinner. So that's it. That's your road tip of the week. Eat a salad. Your stomach will be glad you did. Well, before we move on, I want to take a minute and introduce you to some of my friends from the travel industry at a company called Group Collect. Now, if you don't know about them, Group Collect is a group travel tech company that was started by a travel leader and is staffed by actual tourism veterans. They create some really easy to use online platforms that help take the pain out of organizing group trips. Now, we recently started using their Group Collect Register product to organize our on-site familiarization trips. And I got to tell you, I really loved using this system. It's a very simple system that you can use to accept registrations and process payments. The best part is there are no tech skills required to get it going. And they also have a fantastic support team that offers one-on-one help anytime you have a question. I reached out to them about a couple things when we were setting up our first fam trip in their system, and they were lightning quick on the response. I definitely appreciated that. They also have a really cool product in the works called Group Collect Ops. And travel planners are going to be able to use this for everything from generating trip quotes and sending RFPs to even paying suppliers online. That's going to be a really exciting all-in-one system for you. If you are interested in learning more about how Group Collect can help you streamline your travel operations, you can visit groupcollect.com/gatherandgo to fill out a form to connect with a team member. Again, that is groupcollect.com/gatherandgo. Reach out to Group Collect today and plan group travel better. All right. Well, it is just about time for us to get into our featured conversation with Anna McKitrick. Before we do that, though, I want to introduce you to a special guest making her first appearance on the podcast. Rachel Crick is our associate editor and project manager. She's been with the company for a few years now, fantastic travel journalist. And I wanted to bring her on the show today because she actually has a personal connection to the topic we're going to be talking with our guest about, which is the growth of vegan travel. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us why this is a topic that is of interest to you and how you found yourself following Anna online before she ever got on our radar as a podcast guest.
Yeah, so I actually am a vegan and have been for about 5 years now. And I know firsthand how hard it can be to travel in a group setting as the only one with that dietary restriction. But I also don't want to miss out on all the great travel experiences out there. So I got really curious to see if there was any tour companies out there that were specifically for vegan travelers. And there are, and that's how I found Anna.
Yeah, so you found her on Instagram and followed her just kind of as a fan and liked her content?
Yeah, pretty much. Definitely had a few of her trips on my wish list, that's for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. So Rachel sat in on the conversation with Anna, so you'll hear her voice during the interview. And I can't wait for you to hear this young woman's amazing story because it is pretty incredible. After the interview, I hope you'll stick around because we're going to do a quick recap of some of the most important things that Anna had to say to make sure you don't miss them. And as always, you can also find some of those really important details on the show notes for this episode. Show notes are the text that shows below the audio player wherever you are listening to this podcast. And when we're done with that wrap up, I hope you will stay with us because I'm going to take a minute and explain to you why I think government shutdowns might be the dumbest thing about America. That's going to be the topic of today's Hot Minute. You won't want to miss that. We'll be right back with Anna McKitrick. All right, everybody, I want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Louisville, Kentucky. If you're planning a group trip, Louisville Tourism invites you to explore Bourbon City. Begin your bourbon journey at the Kentucky Bourbon Trail Welcome Center at the Fraser History Museum to learn about America's native spirit. Then visit one of Louisville's renowned distilleries to see the artistry, sip handcrafted bourbons, and savor the stories behind every bottle. Add a touch of culture with a visit to the Speed Art Museum or a performance at the Kentucky Center for the Performing Arts. Sports fans can experience race day excitement at Churchill Downs, delve into horse racing history at the Kentucky Derby Museum, celebrate Muhammad Ali's legacy, and discover the craftsmanship of the iconic Slugger bats at the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. With its rich history and dynamic culture, Louisville is the ultimate destination for your group adventures. Learn more at gotolouisville.com. All right, everybody. Our guest today is an up-and-coming tour operator who is making waves on social media. A longtime vegan and travel lover, she launched her tour company, Vegan AF, with 2 trips to Guatemala in 2023. She has since expanded to Greece, Italy, and Jordan, and will operate 17 departures in 2026. Her company has achieved more than $1 million in total revenue without spending anything on marketing or SEO. Anna McKitrick, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. What an intro. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you here. And listen, it's a big intro because you have managed to accomplish a lot in a short time in tourism. Before we start talking about that, though, I'd love for you to tell our audience how you found yourself as a tour operator at like age 30, because this is not the career that you thought you were going to have, is it?
No, definitely not. So I had a pretty non-traditional background. I did not go to university. I didn't go to college. I was an actor. So when I was 18, I moved to New York. And then a short while after, I moved to LA. And I had sort of some success in that. I did a movie with Denzel Washington. I did a Netflix show with Colin Kaepernick called Colin in Black and White. The Denzel Washington movie is called The Little Things, along with a bunch of commercials. And after a while, I really started to not like it. I was really more drawn towards like content creation. And then I went to Guatemala in 2022, early 2022, and I just loved it. I had like 2,000 followers at the time, not very many. And I was posting like what I eat in a day. People had kind of said, like, you really seem to like it there. Would you ever think about doing a group trip? And I was like, that could be really fun. So I worked on it and I was in Guatemala for a while. And then I just decided, like, okay, let's try this. And even though I had only like 2,000 followers at the time, it still sold out in about 2 months, which was really, really crazy because I didn't really think I had like a following or anything like that at the time. And from there, I was totally hooked. Like after I did the first group trip, I was like, okay, I want to do this. Like I don't want to do content as much. Like I want this to be my thing. And I just totally fell in love with it from there. And then it like grew just every year, more and more destinations, more and more trips.
So Anna, I was wondering what makes a vegan trip different from any other trip to a destination?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Definitely very common. So it's not as different theoretically as one would think. Like it really is like a regular group trip. We do regular activities like tours, like hikes, boat day, different things like that. It's just more like the food served on the trip happens to be vegan. And we probably include more meals than a typical group trip would do, like breakfast and then welcome and farewell dinner, just because I want to make sure everybody is fed and like we're probably all going to eat at the same place anyway. But I think a big misconception people have is that the food served on the trip isn't authentic, that it's like this tourist food. And that's really not true at all. A lot more sort of like authentic food is vegan than people think. Guatemala, for example, pepián is the national dish. It's a Mayan dish and it is now typically served with chicken, but cows, pigs, and chickens are not native to Guatemala. So that is a relatively new addition. And we get a lot of people like when we have the pepián with the chayote, which is like a local like gourd with the carrots, a lot of people say like, oh, that's how my grandma makes it. Like that is actually how we eat it a lot of the time. For example, in Greece, Greek Orthodox Christians, they go vegan essentially for Lent. They really like minimize or eliminate their animal products during Lent. So the vegan cheese that they serve in Greece, people say like, oh, that's like this new thing for tourists. But that has been, in the works for thousands of years. This tradition has been going on since before the word vegan existed or even before like, the United States of America existed. If you're eating vegan, that absolutely does not mean that you're not having an authentic experience. And there is a lot more to food history than one would think. And we really, really make an effort on all of our trips that you're going to be eating foods that you've never tried before, and you are going to be eating very authentic local foods.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So veganism, 10 years ago, it was something only a few people knew about. It's certainly growing. Compared to the overall travel market, you're still serving a niche audience.
Yes.
It's still a fraction of the total people that travel. I wonder if you reflect on your time as a tourism entrepreneur, do you think that having a niche audience has made your work harder, or in some ways has it made it easier to attract people, to get them to come on trips with you and to deliver travel experiences that they really appreciate?
Yeah, I love it. I don't know if it's necessarily harder to get people to begin with, but it is very easy to retain people. So we now at this point, for our fall group trips, about half of them now are going to be past travelers. We have about half the people signed up for next year's trips as well are past travelers. So we have a really, really high customer retention rate. And in many ways, it makes it very easy to kind of like scout and create the perfect trip for that person because they're actively in my mind. Our repeat travelers are in my mind. I'm thinking like, oh, okay, like when I'm at a new destination, I'm like, okay, like McKinley likes pottery and like Sue and Joel liked that too. And like, I don't know if like Andrew and Joe would like this, but and they're very much actively in my mind. And it also makes it easier, I think, for people to be like a yes. Like they're not at this point really. There's other people that do vegan group trips, I'm sure, but they're not really picking between like a large array of companies. Like a lot of times they find my page and it's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And I do think like veganism had a surge in like 2016, 2017. A lot of people were going vegan. Now the pendulum has kind of swung the other way to like a lot of people more into like keto and like carnivore diet. But in many ways, I feel like that like solidifies our demographic even more because a lot more of them are seeing like their favorite vegan restaurants serving meat again. So I feel like it's just really great for like traveler guest retention because they do see like in this time that we are like very firm in our values, that is something that we genuinely care about. It's not like we're going to start serving meat as long as it's like no longer profitable.
Right.
So I think in many ways it's easier. Like I think there's just so many companies, it's hard to try to make something that's for everybody. I think you kind of do have to do something to stand out, even if it means like isolating a lot of people. We're also really open probably about our like political beliefs. So I think we isolate people even more, but it also makes it a lot easier for the people who are our target demographic to say yes. And it makes it so that like the people who are our target person come on the trips. The people who aren't our target people don't come on the trips because they're also not going to have a good time. So we also have people
Right.
like by isolating all those people also always have a really good time. They always want to come on another trips because it's like the perfect trip for them.
Yeah. So you haven't spent $1 on traditional marketing, SEO, some of the things that people say, oh, you have to do this or you won't have a successful company. So if you're not attracting new business through those traditional means, how are you finding those new customers, or are they literally just finding you based on the strength of your organic content?
So we find everybody through Instagram and TikTok. We have had some people come through word of mouth, but that was also difficult because up until recently, we didn't even have a website. So everything has been through Instagram and TikTok. I know a lot of people say like and I'm not opposed to it at all. Like I'm sure we'll run ads at some point. I'm sure it's something we'll spend money on, especially as we grow. But I think a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people say like, oh, the algorithm's against me, all these things. Like these apps, like their algorithm's job is to suck your time. Like they want people to like your content. Like that's what they're designed to do, is keep you like hooked on the app. They want to find content that you will engage with and like put it in front of you. So if you're a business owner, like that there's like I don't know, hundreds, thousands, I don't fully know how it works, of algorithms like trying their best to push your content in front of your target audience, in front of people who will engage with it. So I don't necessarily understand even how, like, and again, I haven't run ads or anything like that, but I do feel like if your organic strategy isn't effective, unless you want to like burn money, throw it in the toilet, like I don't really understand the point of paid marketing, because you have this app that's specifically designed to put your content in front of people who will like it. So if those people are already not engaging, liking, buying from it, converting from it, I don't really see the point in pushing that out towards more people. I feel like ads are really more something you should do once you feel like your organic marketing strategy is doing great. Like it's definitely not just a substitute for that organic strategy. And even like we just started a new page and for like the actual vegan AF, because it all used to be run off my account and I think by animals. And we haven't had any crazy viral videos. Like we've just posted 4 or 5 times a week. Everything gets like between a couple hundred to maybe a couple thousand, like almost close to 10,000 views. And in a month, just from posting consistently on a brand new account, we've got like 57,000 views. That's a lot of people, especially considering they're your target demographic. And if you have the option to do that for free, like why not? I feel like that should definitely be first step for sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned posting consistently. I was wondering if you had any other advice for creating an organic social strategy that's going to build your audience and boost sales.
Yeah. So definitely posting period, and having an account is really important, especially if you do a tour operator. Like even the average person on Instagram, like they won't post for a year and then they want to post their vacation. So if you do vacations, like they want to tag you. Like most people in America have about 1,000 followers on Instagram. And those are like their friends. Those are people that they genuinely talk to. And people are also more likely to buy from not buy, but like be influenced marketing wise by one of their actual peers than a real influencer. Like if 3 of my friends went on a group trip with the same person, they all posted about it, I would be like, who is this person? So even just giving them something to click on and go to the next step, not letting it die there, not letting them forget. So definitely step 1 is have an account, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't even have. Second thing is definitely posting on there consistently. Like, I definitely feel like if I click on a page and they haven't posted in a year, I'm like, oh, is this still going on? Like, have they closed? Like, I don't know. And then posting things, like if you're like, well, I don't know what to post, just posting things that I would say like your like think about your target audience, like your target person, like someone they would like. So if you do like food focused trips, like what we eat in a day on a trip to Italy, on a trip to France or something, like, iconic moments from a trip to France, like whether it's like wine focused, food focused, adventure focused, like bike with us from, I don't really bike wherever people bike to on these trips, but those types of things, like repeatedly, and you don't need to invent the wheel. Like, let's say if you do a what I eat in a day, or a highlights, like you can do that again, like what I eat in a day on a different day, like things we learned on a tour and this and this. Like you can, we kind of like repeat the same content all the time. Like I've done a what I eat in a day in Greece, I don't even know how many times at this point. So, and like that gives you something to post consistently, like get in front of people. The other thing is really I know it's kind of counterintuitive because I'm all about like have a social media, but do be funneling people to an email list or something that's off the apps. We do not know what could happen to these apps. I think they're an amazing tool. They're an amazing free tool, but definitely make sure to funnel them. Also, even if they're like taking a social media break, like I don't know anybody who takes like an email break, like you want to make sure that they're getting it from all sides.
Yeah. So can you, obviously budget is a huge factor to go with organic social media marketing, but can you tell me if there's any other benefit to that social media marketing that's free versus like paid ads?
Yeah, I think trust, like I think it feels more organic. People don't like to, particularly maybe younger people, like I guess it depends what your target demographic is for the group trip, but I feel like younger people really don't like to be marketed to as much. So I think organic strategy feels more organic. It's also a lot more fun. I feel like when you have an ad, you pick these specific things, then you run an ad. So there's like a lot more creativity to it. There's a lot more actual ongoing connection. You get to kind of reach them on a more consistent basis, not just like when you're spending ads. And like you kind of get to keep them more in your community as opposed to just like being a passerby. I think, I don't know to say that like one is necessarily more effective than the other, but I definitely think, I think you can also see in real time how your content is performing. But I'm not fully sure. I've never really run ads in this capacity. So like, I don't know. But I think more, my thing isn't necessarily against ads. It's more, I really think your organic strategy should be as good as possible before you start doing paid boosting. It's not a replacement for having a good organic marketing strategy, unfortunately, because it can take a lot of time. It is work, like it is learning a new skill, of course.
Yeah, everything you're saying dovetails with what I hear from other creators, which is that the paid advertising can work, but you can waste a lot of money at the start before you've really got your approach dialed in. And to make it work, you've got to have a significant amount of cash. $500 probably not going to be enough unless you already know exactly what you're doing with ads.
Yeah.
So you've been at this for a few years. You're doing 17 trips next year, which is a ton. You're kind of in this transitional space. You started as a influencer, solopreneur. You're running a lot of trips. You got to start thinking more like a CEO. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be on every trip next year, you've told me. Yeah. So tell me how you're navigating that transition, even just mentally, and figuring out, how do I work as a CEO and not just a trip leader? What do I delegate? Who do I hire? How do I spend money, that's going to make me money instead of it just cutting out some of my bottom line?
Yeah. Great question. Like easier said than done. I mean, the
Right.
first hires, of course, were the trip leaders because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go on every trip. The trips are a lot for sure, especially flying. Like you fly, you have to go there a couple days earlier. Hiring admin has been more difficult. I feel like travel industry, particularly group travel, is really niche. There's so much that goes into the operations of that. And I like you really need kind of somebody who's like worked in travel or has experience in travel because there's like currency conversions that go into the budget. There's a big customer flow that goes on. I would probably say if I was, because I've hired some people for admin stuff and it didn't really work out. I would probably, especially if you're like a solopreneur, you're not hiring somebody full time and you're like a new person at hiring, I would probably factor in and like be open about a trial period. And I think also, and maybe this is just me or like my experience, but I think it was difficult because I was also trying to hire for a job that like I can't, like, I guess my mentality when hiring an operations person was kind of like, well, they'll be the one like doing the system. So like they can come up with the system because we had systems that worked for 5 trips a year. We did not have systems that worked for like 20 trips a year. So I was kind of like, well, we can kind of co-create that system, but that didn't work. I think if I could go back, or what I'm doing now is essentially I reached out to like somebody who owns another travel company and was that does like 40 plus trips a year and basically was like, can I pay you to help me create like an operations system that is designed for me specifically? And then from there, kind of like training somebody in that. I think in the future, I would not hire like an ongoing employee for a job that I can't do myself and know exactly how to do. I think I would either, if I didn't know how to do it, hire somebody for like a specific project-based thing or to teach me how to do something. And then the only people I would hire on an ongoing basis would be like, this is how we do it. And then definitely factoring in like a known trial period, like clear expectations of like, this means it's going well. This means it's not going well. And I want it to be going like this by this time and communicate that. I think those were probably my biggest mistakes. And also, I think everybody should have a lawyer and have them look over things before you send them to people, before you sign it. Even if you're getting like a template from a lawyer or something, that's like sold, they're still not your lawyer. They're still not going to have like your best interests in mind per se. So it doesn't need to be somebody on staff, but I do definitely think you should have somebody that can look over stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now put yourself in the shoes of a content creator who maybe has that 5,000, 10,000 follower threshold. They get some traction with their posts and they have heard other creators saying, hey, I'm making some money on group trips. And they're thinking, well, should I try this? Do you have any advice for them? Like, here's what you need to know, to succeed. Or if you don't like doing this kind of work, don't lead a group trip. Or, it's not going to work unless you have this kind of metric. How would you encourage a person similar to you with their own concept?
Yes. So I would say, I think group trips are amazing. I would do it 1,000 times over. One of the best decisions I've ever made, worth like everything. I think maybe this is just my experience, but I feel like if you're in it for the money, you probably should not do it. It's probably not a get rich quick scheme. It's probably a lot more work than you think it is if you're doing it correctly and if you're doing it like the right way and if you're in it for the long haul. I think a lot of creators, what they end up doing is they work with a company like Trova or Kontiki, basically any type of like larger company that uses influencers to sell their trips. That company takes one of their copy paste itineraries that they have somewhere else, does a markup or gives an influencer percentage, and they do that. I feel like that's just not, partially like not even like ethically and then sales point. I'm like, I don't know that I would be able to sell something that I hadn't done, I hadn't designed, I didn't feel super passionate about. And I do feel like people can feel that. A lot of times they haven't even like been to the country. So they're like, I'm like, why? I would not want to take people to like Vietnam, Thailand, Japan, if I had never been, if I didn't even know if I liked it yet or not. And I don't know if I would necessarily even feel comfortable like charging me to take them to a place that like I can't help them in. Like I don't have any recommendations because I've never been here either. I'm just going on a trip. So I'm kind of against like that. I feel like if they let you have a hand in designing the itinerary and you can like scout it, that's fine. But assuming you're really passionate about it, like you really care about it, you really want to do it, you want to design an itinerary, you're going to have a hand in it in some way. Also disclaimer, like do whatever you want. Like, I don't care. But I think if you're like, yes, I want to do it, and I'll kind of go through like advice and some mistakes. I think a big mistake people make is not having any type of launch. They're like, hey guys, I'm doing a group trip. Here's the link. Sign up if you want. Like no lead in, no nothing, like no launch whatsoever. I think it doesn't, I've never seen it work well. And even if I've launched like that, like it doesn't work well, despite the fact that like I have an audience that's actively interested in group trips. Like I would say like shift your content to that place beforehand. Even before that, especially if you've never done a group trip before, I would start talking to your audience and saying like, or your community and saying, would you guys want to go on a group trip? Would you guys prefer to go here or here? Would you guys want to do more walking? Like, would you guys want to do more active? I mean, definitely do something that's like more niche to what you do. Like if you're fitness, like hiking, yoga, like, if you do food, like food focused or whatever it is, like sometimes people also just do like a lot of times people just do like a vacation that they want to go on, like nothing to do with the content they post about. Sometimes they post about budget and then they launch like a luxury trip and everybody's like, I followed you for budget X and now it's like a $5,000 trip. I don't know. So launch period is really important. Like I would say like at least lead people in, like ask questions. Like I feel like especially on stories, like make it feel like a group chat. Like where should we go? What should we do? What do you think? I'd love to do this like with you guys, like join the email list. And then definitely a week or two before shift like all of your content to that thing. Like, what are we doing? Why are we going? Like people are like tapping through this like on the toilet, like tap, tap, tap. Like you need to be posting like every single day about this. Like, what are we eating? What are we doing? Like thinking about their questions in advance before launching. Launch strategy is probably the number one error I see. And then really just like not, and aside from like kind of just like a bad product that's like not particularly niche to them whatsoever, not something they're like interested in, just like a vacation they want to go on. And then
I think you just gave us the episode title, Tapping Through This on the Toilet.
Tapping through this on the toilet. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, those are all such good insights. Rachel, you got one more burning question you want to ask before we let Anna get on to other things?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, traveling as a vegan has always been, the worry is that the experiences that you're going to go through aren't necessarily going to involve the locals. So can you tell me how you curate experiences involving those locals and the cultures that might not always come across as vegan friendly, like, having dinner in a local family's home?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of that. I think we do that on almost every trip. You'd be surprised how many people are actually really excited to do a vegan meal. A lot of people also they have a lot of tourists that just really don't care about the local community, the environment. So a lot of people are just really excited also to have travelers that are more conscious and they're excited to do a vegan meal. A lot of them also, you'd be surprised how many locals are really open to having you in their home. We are doing this one tour at a farm and we actually just asked her, can we pay you extra and you can make us lunch at your house? And she was like, oh my God, absolutely. That's so fun. Even people who don't typically do tours are open to it. Even people who maybe sometimes do tours, sometimes they do the same tour every day and they're really excited to switch it up a little bit or to be asked about something different. A lot of times also we really ask our vendors. Sometimes they have a friend who's kind of wanting to get in the tourism industry, wanting to do more things like that. In Jordan, we just asked our trip leader if they know anybody who could do a food tour. And she was like, oh my gosh, my friend wanted to do vegan food tours, but she thought she didn't know if there was a market for it. So like, I'll text her right now. We also do scout and meet everybody in person. So I feel like when we fly across the world just to buy them lunch, that also goes a long way. And they're a lot more likely to recommend us to their friends. We also like to ask, like, is there anything, even if we're doing like a regular tour, we always ask, like, is there anything you want to do that, or that would be exciting to you, or that you recommend that we do, or something like maybe a little off the beaten path, or like, do you have any friends? And they're like, oh yeah, like half the time we get an email like this long of 10 different options. So it's a lot less difficult, I think, than you'd think. And a lot of people are very, very excited to have a group of vegans in their home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, Anna, where can people find you, follow you, and learn about a trip, and maybe even sign up to come along?
Yeah, so we are Vegan AF. My personal Instagram is Anything But Animals, like anything but animals, but just with my name, ANNA. And then our company is Vegan AF Travel. It's just Vegan AF Travel on Instagram, Vegan AF Travel on TikTok, and then veganaftravel.com.
Excellent. Well, before we let you go, we have some questions we ask everybody, and these are just for fun. So you can shoot from the hip, no pressure. And I'll let Rachel start first.
Yeah.
So when you book travel, are you a window seat girl or an aisle girl?
I am window seat less than 6 hours, more than 6 hours aisle.
There's got to be a reasoning behind that. So can you unpack that for us?
I think like if I have to get up to go to the bathroom once, I don't feel bad. If I have to get up multiple times, I'm like, okay, because I do like to drink water and whatever. So if I get up once, it's fine, which is 6 hours, but more than 6, I'll probably have to get up more than once. And I do not want to be stuck there.
Yeah, I'm impressed you can go 6 hours with only one bathroom trip. that can be challenging. Yeah. So what's one thing in your carry-on that you wouldn't travel without?
I really like turkey tail. Those are like, they're basically like immunity boosters. It's like mushroom, not an ad, not a sponsorship. I buy it from a random brand every time, but I definitely am prone to like the Europe cough and like travelers, like just like low immune system. So if I don't take it, I like will get sick.
So if you had a free airline pass in a week with nothing else to do, where are you going?
Probably Greece. Every time I go to Greece, I'm like, I need to see more of Greece.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. Everywhere I go is so different. There is like not enough time that can be spent on the islands. Like perfect mix of like history, beach, culture, cats, vegan food.
Yeah, fantastic. So last question, what is one thing you have seen or done on the road that you wish you could go back and experience again with somebody you love?
Probably Lake Atitlan. I think that is like the most beautiful lake. It is such a unique and fascinating part of the world. I think it's also really eye-opening because despite like a lot of colonialism and genocide, that part of the world has remained pretty intact, like indigenous wise. And a lot of those practices are still alive, and you can really see how much like just how gorgeous the lake is, like how much history there is. And there's so many like traditional clothing, traditional food making, traditional chocolate making. And I feel like it's just a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, it sounds like you really, really love travel.
Yes.
And that's what we love to have in the travel industry. We're excited to have young entrepreneurs like you in our community, and can't thank you enough for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure to be here.
All right, everybody, I want to take a minute to tell you about Malta. This archipelago in the Mediterranean is a living museum of the 2,000-year history of Christianity. When the Apostle Paul was shipwrecked there in AD 60, the islanders were impressed by his delivery of the gospel and the miracles he performed, and were baptized as Christians. This heritage places these islands among the most important archaeological centers of the ancient Christian world. Now, you can see some of this history in the unique Christian catacombs, a hallmark of prevailing customs during the early Christian era that make the Maltese religious heritage unique. And many Malta residents are deeply devoted to the Virgin Mary. Luke was shipwrecked in Malta with Paul, and his gospel account is full of details of Mary's life. Historic artifacts and oral traditions demonstrate that the Maltese have remained Marian devotees ever since. Plan your trip to Malta to explore more history. For more information, go to visitmalta.com. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed that conversation with Anna as much as Rachel and I did. And I'll tell you what, there was so many interesting parts of that conversation that we actually ran over time, and I had to cut some of it down to fit it on the podcast. But you can hear the entire unedited interview over on our YouTube channel. If you check out the video of the interview there, you'll hear us talk about some topics like how politics and history have shaped the foods we eat. Anna explains why social content quality is more important than social audience size. And she'll tell us all about her experiences hiring trip leaders in foreign countries. And of course, you can see our beautiful faces as we talk. That's a cool feature. To find it, just go on over to YouTube and search for Gather and Go, or you can watch on our website on the page for this episode. Now, I want to hit a few highlights of the things that Anna had to say to make sure you don't miss some of the key takeaways. When we were talking about the power of a niche audience, Anna said, about half the people who signed up for our trips now are past travelers. In many ways, it makes it kind of easy to scout and create the perfect trip for that person. Those repeat travelers are in my mind when I'm in a new destination. I really like this idea of being able to scout new locations and new destinations with a specific person in mind. And I bet you could do that too, especially if you have some frequent or repeat travelers among your group. If you know one person is always on the lookout for a great culinary destination, if you know somebody else always really values historic experiences, maybe somebody else in the group just loves to shop, then you might find it easier to do your product development if you plan with those specific people in mind. Understanding that they are probably really good avatars for people like them or people who have similar customer interests to them. I think that is a great way to go about putting together trips that have a high likelihood of succeeding with your audience. Now, when we were discussing organic social media strategy, Anna said most people in America have about 1,000 followers on Instagram. People are more likely to be influenced marketing-wise by one of their actual peers than a real influencer. If 3 of my friends went on a trip with a tour operator, I would be like, who is this person? Now, I love this insight from Anna. We're all used to the idea of influencers. We are all used to the idea of celebrity endorsements. But there is actually a lot more power in the recommendation of a friend or a family member or someone you trust than the recommendation of some stranger you follow online. So if you are trying to market your trips through social media, maybe the thing to do isn't to try to build a great following and platform of your own. Maybe it's not to focus on getting influencers on your trip or getting high-profile recommendations. Maybe it's to get people in your group, your everyday customers and travelers, to post about the trip. Maybe giving them some interesting prompts or making sure you're taking them to some great places where they're going to get a one-of-a-kind photo so that their friends, their families, people who share their interests see those posts. And if you can get them to tag you in those posts, then it can actually give you a lot more bang for your buck than if you're simply trying to get your message out with your own content on your own channels. And finally, when we were talking about the journey of scaling from a small social brand to a real travel business, Anna said, we had systems that worked for 5 trips a year. We did not have systems that worked for 20 trips a year. I thought we could co-create that system, but that didn't work. So I reached out to somebody who owns a travel company that does 40 trips a year, and I paid them to help me create an operation system that is for me specifically. I found this so insightful. I know some leadership teachers that are fond of saying that what got you here will not get you there. Of course, what they're talking about is that as you grow and scale, the kinds of operations or systems or habits or even staff members that got you to the place you are now may not be what you need to get to the next level. I think Anna was very insightful to realize that she did not have what she needed to operate on the level she wanted to operate on. I love the idea of finding an experienced tourism pro, hiring them as a consultant, and building out those systems that are going to take her where she wants to be. Great stuff there from Anna McKitrick. Well, as I record this episode, we are nearing a week in to a federal government shutdown. And of course, those shutdowns have real impacts on travel. If you are a travel professional, you have no doubt been hearing about it and hopefully tracking the news and figuring out how to respond. As I follow the news and the happenings and how it's impacting our industry, it got me to wonder, certainly there's a better way to handle this, right? Right? Well, we're going to deal with that today in the Hot Minute. Yeah, that's right. The Hot Minute is the portion of the show where I take 60 seconds to give you my unfiltered views on an issue that impacts tourism every day. And today we're asking the question, are government shutdowns something we should be living with? So let's put 60 seconds on the clock and get into it. Government shutdowns are, to be blunt, stupid. No matter who is in control of Congress or which party you hold responsible for failing to pass funding, the fact that shutdowns even exist is ridiculous. Shutdowns might make compelling political theater, but they're an utter waste of time and effort. And they have real consequences in the lives of innocent people, especially travelers and travel providers who have to scramble when parks and historic sites close. Even more frustrating, there is nothing in the Constitution that requires the government to shut down if Congress doesn't pass a funding package. Instead, the practice is based on an old law that Congress has the power to change. There are bills in Congress right now that would automatically fund the government in the event of a budgeting lapse. And if you ask me, our leaders need to pass one and stop putting us through this nonsense. Well, that's the Hot Minute. That's how I see things anyway. Of course, as always, you are welcome to disagree with me, and we can still be friends. And hey, whether you agree or disagree, we would love to hear from you. You can send your thoughts, questions, or favorite budgetary policy proposals to podcast@grouptravelleader.com. I read every email that comes into that address. I really do love hearing from you. And hey, while you're in the mood to give us some feedback, would you do me a big favor? Would you go to your favorite podcast playing app? If you haven't subscribed to the show, then do that while you're there. And if you could also give us a rating and leave us a review, that would be a big help. I'm so thankful to every one of you who has done that so far. My thanks as well to Rachel Crick and Anna McKitrick for joining me today. On the next episode, we're going to have a great featured conversation with Greg Bottenhorn of Jazzby, who's going to talk all about how to keep your money safe on the road. It's a really important topic you are not going to want to miss. Until then, though, remember this. At the end of the day, we are all on this trip together, so let's make it a good one. See you next time on Gather and Go. Gather and Go is hosted and executive produced by me, Brian Schul. Our publisher is Mac Lacey. Our creative team includes Danya Simmons, Ashley Ricks, and Rachel Crick. Our sales team is Talisa Reck and Ashley DeLucia. To advertise on the podcast, call Talisa at 859-253-0455. Gather and Go is a production of the Group Travel Leader. For more information on our podcast, magazines, and events, visit us online at grouptravelleader.com. This episode of Gather and Go was sponsored by Louisville Tourism. From sipping bourbon to exploring cultural gems, Louisville welcomes groups with open arms and endless possibilities. Begin planning your Bourbon City adventure at gotolouisville.com.